Hey guys, Eric in the alley again. Today I just want to show you the good fortune I had. Somebody's cleaning out their garage in the alley. The guys, even the guys that cleaned out the garage, took everything they wanted. Annie, the lady that owns the garage, she asked me to, go down and see if there's anything I could use. It was going all to the landfill anyways. So I went down there and just took a look around. I mean, people miss some things. I mean, I found a nice vise. Yeah, it's the same size as my other one. I mean, I do need a bigger one, but these are still quite handy. Found two old leather cases. One has a digital thermometer in. I might put a battery in it and see if it works. They got a dual lead, so you can put one in each, like two vents whenever you do AC repair. Might even come in handy. And then I found this old case. All you can see is the top of an amp clamp sticking out. It's a Greenlee. I'm not very familiar with them, but it's an AC only. It only has an AC amp clamp on it, AC voltage, and the ohms. But I just wanted to check it. The battery came on, the screen came on, but the battery didn't last. So I put a 270 ohm resistor in it, and it's measuring it. It only has one scale, even for ohms. It has a 2K scale. So that would be 265 ohms would be, it's 5% plus or minus. So I'd say it's reading pretty good. I didn't check it on voltage yet, but it's a shame it didn't have DC. I have one. I have an Ideal that does DC with the amp clamp. But anything today, I mean, this is very heavy duty. This is heavier duty in my AES Wave amp clamps or my Handtech amp clamps. It's a shame it's not going to do me no good, but, maybe some of you out there knows how to convert these. But on another note, what I was doing, I ordered some silicone wire, some Acer Racing on eBay. If anybody does build their own leads, and a good place to get parts and supplies, I have a couple packs that I've accumulated over time for, used a couple of these ones and a couple other packs. I got the stackable ones, and this is 16 gauge wire. I ordered some 16 gauges. I mean, it's fine for test leads. Everything we're testing, you might, with your amperage, you might get some false readings or, wouldn't be on if you had these too long. But, we're taking readings from 16 gauge wires or smaller, so you don't want to overkill this wire. It's not supplying power, but this is very nice and flexible, and the price is kind of right to me. I know a whole roll would be cheaper, but this was $20 or almost $20. The 14 gauge is $21 for two 10-foot leads, a red and a black. I'm going to make a set because I have that snap-on Modus now that uses the same kind of leads as like my voltmeter, and these are Fluke leads that I use on my voltmeter. These are angled. The stackable plugs that I have there, I like using better because when I have to adapt to the U-scope or something, it has an adapter to its mini BNC, or somebody did tell me the name of what the U-scope uses, but it has an output that comes out. And if you want to use these on it, you're going into a straight with an angle, and it's just, a little bit unkempt. So I'm going to make longer leads anyways. They'll be 10-foot leads just for the voltmeter. And what's nice is with the Modus now, it uses the banana jacks too. So the leads I make for the Modus will actually, work in my voltmeter. So you're not just building one lead. These are much better. These Pomona, yet the weight in your hand, these are twice as heavy as the ones I have there, but those are good ones too. I've had no trouble with them at all. And the Acer Racing, they also sell in 5-foot leads. You get 10 different colors. So these wouldn't be any good as a lead on their own, but for the blue and for the red, I'm going to make 5-foot, just put ends on and make 5-foot extensions, because the cord that comes with the Modus, these are only 5-foot, maybe 6-foot, and if I put these over here and my car's over here, like how I've been using this little cart they're just too short. I have to actually take the modus under the hood. I've been using these BNCs and going to my longer 3-meter leads, but you know, it would be nice because I might need these for 2 amp clamps at the same time. I need another channel for voltage, whatever. I only have 2 of these adapters to go to BNC. I either want to make some or build some. I mean, as many cables as we need. I mean, you almost have to build your own cables because you have, I mean, there's still, as I was just mentioning, there's tons of cables I don't have, and you end up with boxes of nothing but cables. I mean, if you keep paying the rate, you know, even for the Modus to buy these cables, they make the under hood set that I seen on AES Way. They're long enough to go from the inside to out underneath your hood. And they're over $100, you know, so even doing it with pretty good wire, you know, flexible silicone wire using good connectors on it, you could cut that in half. I have different crimpers. I have everything. I've made a lot of leads in the past. I made test lights, but usually I wasn't really concerned. I wasn't going down to the quality that you needed, like, you know, for an oscilloscope. Now I'm more into trying to find a good supplier of, you know, the wire. Might just buy it by the roll next time so I have enough, but it's nice having different colors. And let me know if you guys have a place that you get it cheaper, that you have a good supplier that you like. I've seen some of the bigger ones on there, but, you know, like this one on eBay, he has a lot. Acer Racing, he has a lot of different gauges, different sizes, but, you know, it's probably just cutting them off for all. All right, guys, have a good one. That's all I got going on. I'll show you what whenever I get complete, what I was talking about. Have a good one. Adios. Yeah, as I cleaned up the cases a little bit, and there was a whole bunch of sockets. A lot of them were junk, but found out a bunch of good ones. These are all SKs. Those are SKs. These are snap-ons. These are randoms. There's some Max in there, but they're for the, you know, the square bolts with the 8-point. I mean, pretty good find just for random, and you know, going to go to a landfill. All right, guys. Figured I'd share that with you. Hey guys, me and Aaron, we took another ride down to Goodwill this morning. It's nice to get down there in the morning. Whenever they open up the doors, you kind of search through the bins and stuff, but I always find something good. Today I found an Astro tool. It's a brake service kit, and it's, you know, it has everything in it. So that was a pretty good find, because this would have been, yeah, roughly $7, $8. And considering my old one's a Harbor Freight, I call that an upgrade. I do have some Astro tools. I do like them. You know, it's a pretty decent set. You know, this is even a better brake spring tool than the cheaper one that I have. You know, it has a couple tools. This one comes in handy for releasing the star wheel, the lever. It holds a star wheel so you could back off brakes. Nice little kit. And for a couple bucks, hey, what the hell? What else I found? 2 chains with the heavy duty center. I actually took these off a hammock, but who can't use chains for acetylene bottles, oxygen, whatever. You can cut them to, you know, whatever size you want. I found a pretty hefty duty shepherd's hook that I could use around here to hang something off of, maybe hang test leads off. I'm not really sure yet, but you know, you find a lot of cool stuff like that was on its way to the landfill. And you know, somebody's gonna throw an Astro tool brake service kit in a landfill? I mean, that's literally its last stop before it goes. And I also got this mat. You can see there's a tiny bit of glue. It looks like the only use it ever had, but this is a pretty heavy mat. I mean, I'm sure it's not super expensive, but you got 2 sides for, like, you know, if you're making test leads, you have naturally you're going to want them longer, but anything shorter, if you're making repetitions, cutting angles, I mean, it's for crafts, but it makes a hell of a work spot, like, you know, workstation. Keeps you straight, you know, gives you some measurements. But what I'm going to do today, being so I'm going to bring the Nissan in next, I was thinking, you know, should I do cam and crank on it before I change the chain? We know the chain's bad, it's coming out. I've seen some interesting videos. Darren at Mechanics Mindset, he he did one where he was watching the camera crank, and you could actually see if it's walking around, like, you know, if he did on the BMW. But be kind of neat to see. But I'm going to have to either use the Handtech 8 channel 1008C or use the modus. Now, if I use this modus, I only have 2 leads that I could use from back here. And like I said, I prefer to be further away from the vehicle, you know. And I have 2 that I could definitely get to. It has 2 phasers on it, 2 sensors, so we're going to want an intake and an exhaust. I have the leads from Martin Loren that'll definitely make it under the hood, but I'm going to have to use 2 of the modus leads, which are only going to get me, you know, about this far away from the cart. But these are I believe these are 5-foot leads. There's one of every color. I'm going to take the yellow and the black, and I'm going to make an extension for each. Now, this is thinner wire. This seems like, you know, this is at least 14 with heavier sheathing on it, and this is 16. But 16, we're only going to be going for 5-volt square wave, so that's going to be fine. I got some, and these were actually cheaper on eBay. I got them. I never heard of the brand before. I used a couple of them to make test lights, a couple leads. I was going to make leads for the voltmeter, just 10-foot ones, use another channel, you know, because these will actually work on the voltmeter. These are 10-foot of each. I'm going to do one of them too. Either make the extensions, eventually both. But if I'm going to need a 3rd channel for the cam crank and the other cam, we're going to need 3 channels. And, you know, I want to keep this cart back air away from the car. You know, sit on my chair, take it easy. You know, it's Aaron's mom's. This isn't a dealership. I don't have a certain time to get this car done. It's just, you know, these are the things you think or wish about whenever you are on the clock. I'm never on the clock. So I take my time. I go to Goodwill. I incorporate things like that. I build things. And, you know, but once you start on the car, you want to get it done. So I know I'm going to run into that. I don't want to make the leads in the middle, so I'm going to get them made. I'll show you how I do it. It's pretty simple. Many videos on there, out, you know, how to make them, but I'll show you how I'm going to make mine. So far, I've been liking this Diag cart. You know, I'm also using it for a charging bay. I got this surge protector at Harbor Freight with it. Has 2 high-speed USB hubs and a magnetic light. So, I mean, it's pretty cool. They stick to the lid. Then whenever I want one, just pop it off. But, you know, keep one charged, keep tablet charged, keep your phone charged. I mean, keep the speaker going and keep the JBL going. But I have a little space over here. Everything I have is on wheels. I like being able to move everything. Like if I wanted to have that bench over there, if I'm building something, even say I'm welding a piece of metal, I could wheel it over there. I don't have much room. Like this box is on carpet dollies, you know, welding cart, of course. I mean, I even had that on a smaller carpet dolly, but you know, it's over there on the wall somewhere. But I like keeping everything that, you know, I can move around. And over here, there's not much light, but what I do is I just take these magnetic ones and, you know, stick them right to the metal cart there, and then it gives me perfect room. Found this chair out in the alley. I mean, it works out perfect. It lets me sit there, lets me sit there. I mean, you put a professional setup together. Pieces cost so much, but I mean, you could get away with things. I mean, you're finding things. You're building your own workspace. That's the same with like soldering. I mean, now there's a green mat, so it looks like I know what I'm doing, right? One trip to Goodwill changes your whole cred. But seriously, guys, I mean, there's so many different ways to solder. I'm not going to teach you how to solder. I mean, as long as you do the basic things, you're going to find your own way. Like, it was kind of a disgrace the shape the tip of this was in, but I mean, actually, this has treated me really good. I got this at Harbor Freight. This camera won't. Whenever it switches to the other camera, you can probably see it better, but Schneider is the name. Harbor Freight had these. I believe it's like 20-some bucks. I've used this a lot, and you know, this is a rig from one of my old welders. I have a whole box full of old welders, desoldering guns. I mean, I used to modify and build guitar amplifiers years ago, and I still have some of the pieces. This is from Radio Shack. Even the solder, and you find different kind of solder. Now there's a lot of junk solder out there. Luckily I still have a ton of this, and I love this super thin. I save this just for test leads. There's arguments, debates. This is light duty. It's rosin core solder. This was good stuff. Now on Amazon, I mean, it's hit or miss. Read the reviews. Use some kind of flux. I mean, there's people, there's purists out there that's going to tell you this is wrong, this is right. This is plumbing flux. Flux is flux. I use a brush. Make sure you use a clean brush. Don't have nothing else on it. Same thing. You can melt this down, put it in a drip bottle, do whatever you want. Helping hands help. But this wire, it seems pretty good. These are all 5-foot leads. I mean, there's all different colors. I mean, they come in handy for us. They're probably cut-offs from somebody else. But it was Acer Racing. That's the name of the wire. Real soft. And we're going to build extension, and I'm going to just make the leads at the same time. Then we're going to compare them. These are Fluke noodle leads. I know with these I'm out to, these are zero. They're zero. These are 2 years old and they're still zero. So whenever I put them in the alligator clips, I clamp them together, and we're going to go to the homes. We're going to compare what we made, and we're going to compare them to the Flukes. All right, guys, let me get this set up on the tripod. I'll show you how to make them real quick if you're interested. I mean, it's pretty simple, but you know, you might not ever did it before. And I have a green mat. So I'll show you, this is what they mean by the tangle-free wire, the silicone. You know how many times whenever you're using your meter leads, they just, you know, I'm after the yellow, but, well, look, it's the hole. I got my finger taped up, got it caught in the garage door. Wasn't paying attention and got me. Sliding doors are a mother. But I want the black and I want the yellow. I mean, it's just pull them out. There's no tangle, no mess. This is the kind of wire you want. And just wrap up the rest, put them back in the bag for now. We have the other colors of the Modus too, so we can make extensions or 5-foot leads out of these. It's a lot cheaper than buying them. Them Fluke leads, I got a deal on them on eBay. I thought the guy's still on there. They're like, I think $23. But I mean, they're definitely worth it. I've had them for years. I don't really like the angle plug on all of them though, because if you use them as an extension, you know, I just don't like the looks of it. It works when you do that, but you know what I mean. It's not in line. You're you know, bending it. All right, I'm gonna put these back in the bag, and then we're gonna strip the ends of these, and then just we're gonna use the solder type. I always use the solder type. If you can't solder your own test leads, then you know what are you checking? Whatever you find, there's a good chance you're gonna have to solder. So you know, get your own. Even if you're practicing soldering, you're going through your routine to make your own leads. If you're gonna mess up, if you're learning, do it now. All right, now to strip the wires, you're gonna see in almost every video, you're gonna see these Irwin pliers or wire strippers. These are very good. I mean, you set your gauge to where you want your wire to be, and let's get an end of it. And you kind of figure out, you know, because we're going to be going through this hole right here and soldering right there. So, you know, you take a shot and you could always adjust it. They're easy to, you just put it in there and you touch the yellow part and perfect every time. You know, it's a lot better than sitting there with the manual ones. Then you have two good ends. You just twist them together, and then we're going to just slide the wire in there. We're going to solder it right there. It's the easiest thing to do. That's what I'm saying. If this is where you're learning how to solder, the ohm meter isn't going to lie. When you plug these in, if your solder joints are weak, or, you know, it might tell you the truth until you put some current on it. But you're going to get a good idea, and then you're going to want to wiggle test them. You're going to make sure they don't break, because if you have a cold joint, it's going to break just right off. If you have something really wrong, you know, your resistance is going to be high, and you're going to check your leads like you're supposed to every time you take a measurement. So if they didn't hold up and they broke in your box because of your solder, you know, you're still checking them every time. This isn't something you're going to depend on and, you know, drive around. This is, but you are going to check it every time before you take any measurement with scope or a meter. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it into the little helping hands. These were, I had one for years and then it broke, and I got this one on Temu, and it's pretty much the same thing. All right, guys, it's pretty cool. I can see the camera at the same time sitting here on this chair, man. I like that. I'll kick back, I'm just chilling, but on this, this has the plastic like on the safety end there. This, I'm going to just use this. You can use the soldering iron, but I mean, being as I have this, it just heats it up a lot faster. That it basically just tin that side, because right where the solder goes, I like putting a little drop, and then I want to tin this wire right here on the end. This is tinned. It says high count copper tinned wire, so it's. They use it in robotics, marine, everything. Did a little bit of research on it. I mean, it's great wire. Seems like a great site. He has it in all different lengths. So if I can't find it like cheaper or wholesale, too bad we couldn't get a group thing going. Maybe it is possible. Like, you know, we buy a spool and everybody gets so much, you know, just for the shipping. I don't know. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just heat that real fast. Just put a drop in it. This, you could do the same thing too. If you're using a torch, if you're using, I'm going to use the soldering iron, but just enough to get in there. I'm not even getting 100% like penetration on it, but what I'm doing too, I got these cheap, these on Temu. These are junk. You heat them up and they solder together, but they have shrink wrap that's, I mean, it's horrible. It's pre-cut and everything, but the jaws of these are pretty sharp. They're almost like them alligator type wire piercing probes. So I just put one over the wire so they don't pierce the wire, you know, get any shorts or anything like that. Then I'm going to just move this up, and I'm going to put that right on top of where we put that little pull of solder. And right now, when you're doing your other one, this is where you want to make sure you have these ends on. We have one open end now, so I'm not worried about putting this on yet. I'm going to slide it from the other end, but when you put your last one on, make sure this is on. It happens to everybody. Sooner or later, it's going to happen to you. Right, this is a side view. See how there's a little tension on it? That so it pushes into the plug, and it's not going to back out, like it's not going to fall out backwards. And you just clamp on, leave a little bit of tension in there so it pushes forward. And then you could see right where you want to drop that solder. And what's cool is, I don't know what you'll be able to see, but I actually use the magnifying glass. It makes you feel all steampunk getting to use it, you know. So hey, it's like old school. It's enjoyable. But then I use this. It's just that soldering iron I was showing you. I just get it hot. The tip was pretty bad. This isn't the correct sponge that came in it. Supposed to use wire wool. I had a chore boy, but Erin wouldn't let me have it. She did let me have one of these scrunchies, and you know, you can see it cleaned the tip pretty good. It kind of burns this side, but I got the spray bottle. It's whatever you got. I've used rags before, but basically you don't want a lot of globs of solder. You want that as straight as you can get it. And I put this back in this old school holder. This didn't come with it. It's you make your own workspace. And while that's heating up, you do got to watch where you set these propane ones. I mean, I'm not sure if it's matte or melt. The silicone don't, but what I'm going to do is take a little bit of this paste with a brush and just make sure I get a little bit on there. Yeah, Can't really get too much. I mean, actually, this is a cheap brush. I said almost put a hair in it. You don't want that. I mean, that's what I say. You'll find people like different kind of wire. You'll find people at like different gauge. I like this real thin stuff. I'm not sure what. 002. I'm not sure. I'll have to look at it. Here we go. Nope, I can see it enough to know it's upside down. .0.32. This is very thin. I mean, this tip's got to be sizzling by now. It's good and hot. See, get a little bit on the tip. I do. And then right in the middle of that flux. Melt the flux straight down. Give a little bit of solder. Just make sure the joint flows, that you don't see no humps or no bumps, anything like that. Just make sure it don't go backwards, because sometimes you get a stiff joint right there if you get a ball of solder right here. You want these things to be super flexible. And just shut the torch off, let it cool down. Good strong joint without excess solder. That's what we want. Okay, I'm gonna have to slide off the piece of plastic I have on there, a piece of shrink wrap I was using as a little protector. Now this is where you're gonna want to put your ends on. I put them both on now so there's no mistake later. Now this is a male. Being these are extensions, I'm using 2 reds. This is the female one. It comes in that kit. These are under $10. That's why building your own leads is you're going to need so many, and there's so many things that you can do that, you know, at some point you're going to want to be able to just, you know, make exactly what you need. These you just put them through, put him through. Now this will be the piece. This will be the new end of the Modus yellow, just for an extension. And then you hold the wire and you push down hard. I always tug it on the wire there because you want to test your wire, and you just push down harder and harder, and it's almost in there. I'm pushing against silicone, so it's probably gonna. Once you got it in, you got your connector. Always tug out wire, make sure that solder connection is good. And we're going to test them, so there's no cheating. I pushed them up against the wood there right in front of me on the bench, and it just seated it better. Pushing on silicone's a little bit difficult, but gets it most of the way in, and just a little bit of push up against the table. And these are 16 gauge wire, and I ordered some 14 gauge wire. They'll definitely fit in here. That's going to be my 10-foot leads. This is just an extension. Now the other end, that's where I want the female. So I want to make sure I put this on facing the end. And it's just a different barrel. And see, stuff like this, even if you have these kits around, I mean, they're under $10. Sometimes you could, oh, this one's a little bit big, but sometimes you could use them for pins. You could do all kind of stuff, you know, plug this in. This would be for the bigger, the older style, like 80s style plugs. You could use this, you know, to plug into one terminal and then hook it up to your scope, just solder that on there, and, you know, you're good to go. But I'm going to put him back in the helping hand, and then I'm going to solder it, and then that's going to be, you know, one extension done. Yeah, and I'm going to do the same thing. Last time I didn't hit them with the flux before I tinned them. I mean, my mistake. I like to, but I just stripped the wires. Very nice, very clean. See, I got a couple hairs. That's a cheap brush, but we'll just burn them on. We don't want it to run downhill. That's all we need there. These wires are already tinned, so this is just making it all one strand, so there's basically no frayed edges. And this isn't feeding a lot of solder. That's why I like the thin solder. You could control what you put in there. People have different preferences. If it's something this small, you know, we're doing 16 gauge wire. I'm not going to use something that, you know, I'd fix my kitchen sink with. You know, take it easy on yourself. And it's simply a matter, I put the protector back on it. You just want to heat it up. I keep it so the open side's up, and so the solder doesn't want to run towards your terminal. After you heat it up, just feed it a little bit. Like keeping it in there till you could see it flow a little bit. Right like that. And we'll just let that cool. Yeah, it's the same thing, you know, different end on the connector. And you slide this down. Sometimes whenever it's still a little bit warm from soldering, it makes it a little bit easier, but you just take the same thing. Obviously, that's where you give it the wire tug test. Don't pull it the whole way through though by the wire. Just give it like you're checking a wiring harness. And then take the rest of it, push it down, and then push it up against something hard to seat it. And then there you have the female connector. So give them good tugs, make sure they're on there good. And this one, actually, this one has 2 males. Or a male and a female, I'm sorry. So it goes, it's a pretty good fit. I'm going to make the black one, then we're going to plug them into the multimeter, connect them together, compare them up against the Fluke, see what we got, see if we could make a test lead ourselves on the cheap. That, you know, comes out as good as a Fluke. Alright guys, come down to the moment of truth. These are the Fluke leads. These are very good leads. I check them every time. If they're not zero resistance with the gator clamps, yeah, I know something's wrong. You can wiggle them, check them out. It stays at 0. Now we're going to see what our homemade ones do. But I can't check these the traditional way because there's one female. These are extensions. So what I'm going to do, we know we're at 0 with the Fluke leads. I'm going to add these to the Fluke leads. And then we're going to see if the resistance changes. It figures I would have the wrong end there. Plug the extension into it. Then we're going to plug that into the black alligator. You know, it was just a little tight first time using. Now we're going to do the same thing with this, only we're going to go yellow to the black. And you could imagine if this was just regular wire, how big of a mess I'd have right now, actually. Okay, the male end's going to go into the alligator. Nice, you know, you have to push to get them in, so that's always a good sign. So this is silicone wire, so you could just pretty much roll it up to show you what I got. We have the black and red, black and red. And then we come to the extensions, where the red goes to yellow and the black stays black. Now we're going to go the whole way to the alligators. Clamp them together, just like we did before. Now we're going to... We're at 0, guys. Let's give them a good shake. Rock solid. All right. Shut that off. When you got the silicone leads like that too, I mean, that is what's nice about wrapping them up. You know, when you take your voltmeter leads off, it's always a pain getting them wrapped up whenever they're silicone. I mean, you do what you know, just wrap them up like noodles. That's what they're like. And this was pretty good heat resistant wire. I mean, it has its voltage on up 600 volts. The temperature minus 60 Celsius, 200 Celsius for the metric guys, minus 76 Fahrenheit, and then 392 for us. Silicone rubber, it's nice heavy duty. I like it comes in a pouch and not a little spool. I mean, spools get unruly. There's a bunch of, you know, spooled up stuff up there. That's what spools get you. Nice silicone bag, or a nice bag like that, it's pretty heavy duty. I can throw that into one of them Craftsman boxes, you know, then whenever I need it, I have everything I need to make wire or to make leads. Because you're going to, you know, you're going to need to adapt a bunch of things, and they charge a lot for these leads. You know, Handtech, I mean, they give you some pretty good long leads if you look. I mean, they'll get you your basic leads, but the sooner you get into making your own, the more money you're going to save. These are Deutsch connectors. They look like this, and they're pins. I don't know if you could see them. Their pins are smaller. I mean, you could slide these over if you're checking for a bent pin or straighten out a pin on a ECU or something, or if you're getting a signal off of something that has a pin like that. Sometimes them fit perfect. You can make your own jumper wire like this. Only on the end you could have one of them hard wire. There's all kind of, you know, you're going to need all this at one point. If you get into using an oscilloscope, I mean, you're going to need alligator clips, but you could solder the wire right to these. If you're going to use these all the time, some of these are cheap Harbor Freight. There used to be a couple Radio Shack ones in here that give you a little bit better to solder to. But you slide this down, you solder to the inside of that. Slide this back over, and then you have, like, you know, battery clip. If you need to get power for like a transducer or something that needs external power, you get with these clips. You know, you need to jump off of wires. You know, there's smaller clips. There's, you know, anything that you could adapt to and solder to, you can make a lead for. Because the more solid connections like that you have, the better signal you're going to get. If you have to go through a bunch of adapters, you're going to lose something. And there's more chances. The more adapters you go through, it's like in plumbing. The more fittings you have, you know, the more chances you have to have a leak. So, but anyways, I mean, people solder all different ways. I mean, this wasn't about soldering. This was just about, you know, making some leads, saving some money. What I'm doing today, let my finger heal a little bit, and then I'm going to bring that Denise on in tomorrow. But it was nice to know, thinking ahead. Okay, maybe I'm going to do cam crank correlation, maybe I'm not, but if I do, I'm going to need to get to it from my box, from my diagnostic cart. I'd like to be able to just sit on this chair and, you know, get a nice signal, you know, have some fun. That's what it's all about. If you don't enjoy this, do not, because, I mean, this is the fun part. And you hear people say you need this, you need that, you know, just wanted to add, you know, this worked fine. We're using this, we're using plumbing, flux, you know, and we got 0 ohms resistance the whole way through these things. As long as you follow them steps, using that flux is better than not using any. I mean, you're going to go down the line, but that's just the way I do it. I've seen on the Gadgets playlist, Dennis was using a DeWalt battery. They have a pretty nice soldering iron that goes with them. I looked it up. I use cobalt, you know, just because I have so many batteries and they've never broken. You know, it was the first non-air powered tools I was going to use, and none of them have given out yet. Not even a battery has gone on, you know, over 3 years of using them, you know, almost daily. But they do have an adapter for that. It's 24-volt cobalt battery. You just plug it in. It's you could control the heat on a pretty nice soldering iron. That's good. You could take it under the hood. That's why these guns, these are great for doing what I was doing right here. But if you're under a hood, these have an exhaust vent. So if there's any wires around where you're soldering, this is going to burn the wires. The heat comes out here. You could actually turn this on the side and shrink heat wrap. So if you're in there, you know, pretty good, you want all your heat going to the tip. And this is just a little bit bulky. You got to be careful. You got to make sure you don't burn another wire with the exhaust. All right, guys, that's just a couple pointers that, you know, that I come up with. I like the fact that you could take something under the hood. That's why the butane worked out better. Because if you're working out, if you have to solder something and say you're in a parking lot and you have to have a 50-foot extension cord, it's hard to get an electric iron hot. I mean, you're just, you know, you can't get it hot enough to be enjoyable. But if you could do it off of a cobalt battery, I'm in. Yeah, yeah. You'll probably see me getting that pretty soon because it's, you know, like I say, that's a Harbor Freight iron I use. Been using for a while, too long. Well, that kind of concludes it, guys. It's, I'll show you a final product of what I was talking about, because if I do, I'm going to bring this Nissan in tomorrow. Still haven't decided if I'm going to do the cam crank, but I'm going to need 3 channels. So my dilemma was, I have 2 of these Pomona to BNC jacks, and then from there, this black cable, I got this from Martin Loren. I have 4 of them, but I only have 2 adapters, and these Modus leads are short, so that's what I was doing. I was building extensions for them. And this thing's actually, I mean, so little used, the guy never stacked the grounds. It was only on the Snap-on, you use this if you use 1 channel. If you stack the grounds, you use this plug, and still had the new plug in it. Just like on the green channel, there was 2 leads with it. They still got the plug, so I mean, I'm thrilled with that. So, but here's how far it would have got me. This doesn't get me very far from my box. It only gets me right here. With the new extensions, I mean, this is how far away I am from my box. So I could run 3 channels the whole way up to my box, have that screen on, have the chair I found in the alley right there. I mean, it's how you enjoy your work. You make your space, and it's hard. It's hit or miss. That's why I like sharing, you know, things that I found, and you know, things that you could use that aren't even really made for automotive, things you find. But in the end, you know, there's many ways of doing things. We all do things our own way. This is just, you know, my personal adventure. So, yeah, any tips and suggestions you got, feel free to drop a comment, man. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Adios. Yeah, guys, one final note. Them test leads made out of pretty good silicone, 16 gauge wire. It would be about $2.50 each to make your own, counting the ends. Those are, you know, I forget what the name of them is on the ends. These ain't the best ends, but it's the first time I'm trying them, and they work pretty good. But they're one of the cheaper ones on eBay. I'm not even going to take a shot at that. But they were like $8 each for a pack of 10. And these ones are same thing, same company. But these ones are stackable. These are for if I make leads that will go to the Modus. Well, you could actually use on the voltmeter too, but the ground is stackable. So it fits with the Modus system. But I just figured I'd share the price out with you. I mean, what it would cost to make your own compared to if you had to buy something that compares to Fluke. You know, the ones that come with your multimeter usually won't.